Yeah, let's get started. I am excited to introduce and interview Paul Ross of the City Home Team. Um, I put in the email that they've done 80 transactions this year. I think more than that. They've done 400 over the last 3 years, and it's only with 5 people, so it's a ton of volume per agent. And I've been in a lot of firms before and seen a lot of teams, and there are teams and there are real teams, and they are really operating like a business. If anybody has thought about building a team of agents or wants to learn from a team of agents, this is definitely a really strong team. So with that, I want to, it's an interview, but I still want to turn it over to you, Paul. And maybe as a first question, can you introduce yourself and let us know how you got into real estate?
Sure, no problem. Well, first of all, I'm Paul Ross, and I've been a resident of Washington State for 10 years. And originally, I got into the real estate industry 14 years ago. I'm 34 years old, and that was back in California. I was in my very, very early 20s. 20. I was 20, and I came from an immigrant family, and growing up in and within my community and also within like the public schooling system, I started noticing and recognizing that there was multiple ways to be successful in America and ways to be a contributing citizen to society. And I had two sides of the spectrum. I'm not opposed to neither one, and I believe both are very and quite necessary for our social economy and our businesses, as well as for our communities. And I recognize that there was a lot of my friends that come from immigrant families and the community I grew up in. I was born in Ukraine, grew up amongst a lot of Russians, Ukrainians. I started noticing and recognizing that some of their parents with no college degrees, with no education backgrounds, were going into business, and they were doing business such as construction, such as trucking, vehicle repairs, working as mechanics, landscaping, all kinds of kind of like roll up your sleeves, get dirty type work. And but I noticed their lives weren't lacking in much. I mean, we even had instances where I've noticed where they'd be driving very fancy cars. You probably noticed some Ukrainians, Russians always drive their fancy BMWs and Mercedes. Whether they can afford them or not, I don't know how they do it, but it was just really different for me. And then I had my friends from school, and my friends from school, like, they were really on the path of going to school, getting your education, getting a job, stability, something you enjoy doing. And I was kind of caught in between. And as mentioned earlier, I didn't find nothing wrong with it, but I chose a different path. And the path I chose was I ended up after high school working for a friend's construction company, and worked construction in my 18 and 19-year-old years. And in my 20s, I had a friend who introduced me to real estate. And even though then I didn't know anything about real estate sales, I didn't know anything about real estate transactions, owning real estate, buying, selling, investing, I didn't have just an ounce of knowledge in regards to that. But I agreed to go and work on a 100% commission type of schedule where I would set appointments for the office. And construction was slowing down during the downturn of the economy back in 2006, 7, 8. So with me running out of work, I went and started making phone calls for this real estate company. And every day I'd come in, I'd have one cup with 150 paper clips, and I'd have another cup which was empty. And what I would do is I wouldn't leave the office until I went through and made 150 phone calls, and I would move one paper clip from one cup to the other cup. And so I really started from the bottom of this. I don't have wealthy family or rich parents or formal type of education. But I, with me starting from the bottom, I believe it really set kind of a growth path as well as an opportunity path for not just me, but future team members that partner up and work and decide to work with City Home Team. I've learned later on in the years where there's this kind of stigma or bias where people that dropped out of high school or out of college or not so smart people end up getting into real estate that couldn't get a college degree. I learned that that's not necessarily quite true. Some of the most intelligent and brilliant minds I know and I've met found a different way of making money. And I'm so grateful that in America, land of opportunities that my parents brought me to as an immigrant, we have that opportunity. So it's not just dumb people that enter real estate. There are some of the most brilliant and just creative minds that enter this industry. So
I think you make an interesting point there about the paper clips. It's not a very scientific approach, but those kind of things really work in real estate, so that's a good spot to be.
It's consistency, man, and then anything you do consistently is going to have good or bad results, right? Like make 150 phone calls per day, you will come across some phenomenal and great opportunities. And when you have multiple hours per day, I treated it as entering into the workforce as you got to work 8 hours per day. So I treated it as a job, and I was like, all right, I got to work 8 hours per day. What am I going to do for 8 hours? Right? It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to make a Facebook post, I'm going to send out a text, and I'm going to get back to hanging out or take a nap or sleep in. It was, all right, I got 8 hours per day. What am I going to do with it? I mean, eating chocolate consistently is probably not a good thing for you, but doing things for your growth and personal self-development as well as for your business and doing them consistently will always have great results, whether it's on your knowledge, experience, your grit, or even the value that you can present.
Are there any things that you learned while you're doing cold calling that you still teach to your agents now when they do cold calling?
Absolutely. Having gone through that, I realized two things are very, very quite important. One is the consistency of going through those calls, regardless of the FUs and the stop calling me. And I've already talked to someone, I plan on listing. I've been able to learn to handle and overcome objections. And I've been able to encourage my team to do the same and also understand some of the challenges that team members may go through, as well as objections they may be faced with when they're making those calls as well, allowing me to be able to kind of shift attention and focus to handling those before they come up. And learning that end of the day in real estate, it's not that complicated. We simplify everything. All of you could probably name 10 common objections that we receive in real estate as a salesperson. Right? There's only gonna be 10. And if you just figure out what those 10 are, it's not complicated to just learn to overcome them and come up with the best answers for them. You don't have to overthink it and think you can get bombarded with some random questions that fly out of the moon. It's one of those things where you understand and you equip yourself, you equip the team. And me personally learning what those are, I was able to take responsibility of training the team on what those objections are. And we'll later go into kind of what our day-to-day team structure is looking like and day-to-day activities, but we script practice. And during our script practice is where we learn to overcome those objections, and we practice in different types of scenarios over the phone, face-to-face, and we prepare ourselves. Second important lesson learned there was the importance of nurturing and follow-up. right? It's just making an immediate phone call and hoping to get an immediate result. Catching someone when they're ready to sell or ready to buy right away is, you really, it's possible, but you have to go through a lot more phone calls. But when you develop systems of nurturing and follow up, and some of our transactions that we have going under contract now or being listed now are from 6, 12, even 24 months ago. So, learning the value of nurture and setting up nurture plans and kind of a blueprint for the partners on the real estate team to be able to follow and kind of have guidance on. And during the questions you wrote down for me, kind of helped me prepare, you kept on mentioning the word agents. I wanted to clarify that everyone that works on a team it's a partner. And I treat real estate sales and real estate business as a business. And everyone I choose to work with, everyone that chooses to work with me, it's a partnership. And we really take that stance, and we treat each other with that same level of respect. And we only choose to do business who we choose to do business with. No one's forced or get their arm twisted to work with us, vice versa.
Yeah. Can you tell me about your first partner that you brought on? How did you go from solo agent to City Home?
Okay, well, it was within 6 months of me actually getting my license, after making those calls and building up some confidence to actually meet with clients face to face instead of setting appointments for other agents. I ended up getting licensed during that time, and upon getting licensed within 6 months, I noticed my phone skills and my ability to generate opportunities were through the roof. And I started having more leads that I could personally work with. So my first hire that I brought on was a transaction coordinator, as well as a licensed assistant. And both of them were almost at the same exact time. And it was through creative compensation plans, as well as independent contract type of agreements, which, if everyone's curious or interested in learning more about those, I'm happy to share them on an individual level. So back in the day, what Pelago offers is transaction management service, which we leverage heavily at the given time. Back then, I didn't have that. So I brought on a transaction coordinator who would manage a transaction for me, ultimately from the moment we went under contract on a purchase or on the listing up until closing. And the transaction coordinator would handle everything from dealing with the title company, escrow company, the buyer's agent, as well as with a lender, in presenting any and all documentation, getting signatures done, drafting offers for me, and putting all the necessary paperwork together and uploading it within the company's database. Depending on which company, there's different requirements. Thank you, Gideon, for keeping it so simple for us on what all disclosures and documents we need to have submitted. I've been in some companies where we have stacks of paperwork, which had to be done.
But I think this is important that you hired somebody for administrative and general assistance, not somebody to go out and work with your clients. Like, you were the client agent and you needed help with other things.
Yes, my production tripled after that 6 months. My personal production tripled, because I didn't have to do the tedious work of putting an offer together. I'm able to show a house. I'm able to go on my next listing appointment instead of having to go to a coffee shop or having to go to my office and put an offer together, or try and do it off my phone, which I've done before, and it sucks. But I've ultimately, I understand there's a cost to it. And at first, the biggest fear was like, all right, what mistake I made was, I guess I call it a mistake, because I brought on someone part-time to do that. And it was like, I had to constantly make sure they had work. But there's solutions now where you can just do it per transaction. and you do it per transaction. Until you reach a certain level of volume, it doesn't really make sense to go and bring someone on part-time or full-time for transaction management.
I think though, I want to talk about this point a little bit more because I was
Sure.
also in the Keller Williams system before, like you, where they do a lot of team training. And one of the things that always stood out to me in all the classes and stuff was that you hire assistants before you hire for sales. Like, you are the salesperson. If you don't want to be the salesperson, you're not in the right spot. Like, if you're trying to drive a team, you have to be able to drive business to that team before anything else. And so if you're trying to have your first teammate take over business production, like, oh, you want them to work with sellers or buyers, but you don't have like an overwhelm of them, you're sort of like hiding behind their success at that point. And it's something that I've personally struggled with for a long time running Pelago is I've always wanted to have somebody else do sales. Sales is never really, it's not fun for anybody. And it really wasn't until I started just doing all the sales and that whole process and delegating the other things that we're able to get that consistency and start learning, like, being able to like keep that knowledge and use it to then train future people. So
Absolutely.
I think it's really important people got that point right there.
I mean, part of it is, you're able to focus on generating more opportunities and more buyer seller leads, as you could. That's what I referenced to when I'm talking about opportunities. But secondly, you have a value add and a value proposition when you are onboarding any future agents to your team. Hey, we have a transaction coordinator as well as a licensed assistant already on the team, and you up their salary or they are able to handle more transactions. But because they're familiar with your system and your process, not only do you have the buyer and seller leads, like anyone could go and pay for Zillow leads, or anyone can go and find ways to get leads. But what, as a team lead, a big factor for me is a value add, and in my partnership with the team, for example, is, all right, they have their level of work that they're responsible for, and I have my responsibilities that I'm responsible for. And part of my value add for team members is, hey, we have a transaction coordinator, we have a licensed assistant, and it's not just the buyer and seller leads. You could actually live the life that you want to live. You could travel if you want. We have team members who were able to get married in the middle of this hot season when we have 5, 6, 7 listings going on at the same time, and they're able to have a honeymoon and get married. And we're also able to travel. I've probably spent maybe only 80% of the year in America or in Seattle. Abroad most of the time. I'm actually in Kiev, Ukraine right now, and it's one of those things where it creates leverage and scalability, and at the same time you don't always have to personally be there, and sometimes it's just to spend time with your family or friends, and other times it's because you're too busy, right? So it's a two-way type of benefit there.
Yeah. Tell us about your second person that you brought on, your second partner.
Second partner, that was licensed assistant. Licensed assistant it was ultimately like a buyer's agent. They would really help me with listings as well as with buyers. So in the event where I had multiple buyers or multiple showings and I couldn't handle all of them, I would leverage the licensed assistant. Compensation, I'd usually split right down the middle with them and say, hey, I kind of overwhelmed
like
at this 50-50. Kind of
they were just
overwhelmed.
more like a showing assistant almost.
I'd say, this is a second hire early in my career, very minimal team. They were operating as just a licensed assistant on the team, and they would help out with buyers as well as with sellers. With buyers, it would be, I always seen that, working with buyers, it's less of a responsibility and less of a challenge because commissions a lot of times paid by the sellers, so buyers don't really have too much kind of they're not as vested into interviewing and understanding who their buyer's agent is. And as long as you knew what information to provide and you arrived to your showings on time and you send listings out on time, you're good. With listings, it was a little more different, to where with the licensed assistant, if I would partner with them with a buyer, they would handle showings, they would go to inspections, they would go to the appraisal, they would send out listings. My responsibility would be to go over the offer and the terms with the buyer, and then as well as handling any negotiations with the listing agent, and just kind of overseeing the entire process up until close.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of how we split up those roles.
50-50 split with them?
That was on a 50-50.
Okay. And sorry to just jump ahead, but tell me about the next partner afterwards. I kind of want to see how it all plays out.
Sure. Well, with me strictly focusing on sales and not really dedicating too much time to printing open house flyers and social media marketing and transaction work, with me just focusing on the sales and the production side, I was able to generate more and more opportunities. I started having past clients. I started getting referrals. I started really increasing my marketing and advertising skills, and diving into different platforms and solutions that are available for advertising and marketing. And next thing you know, I have this tremendous flow and consistent flow of leads coming in. And I've kind of learned that there's a faucet that I was able to regulate based on certain investment of whether it's time or money. I was able to regulate that faucet. Up until I learned to regulate that faucet.
Leads for the buyer agent that you brought on?
Well, I mean, like, I'd have a listing, and then I have sign calls, and then I have open house leads and all this stuff. And I'm just like too overwhelmed juggling all this stuff. So it's like, all right, well, you know what? There was people like, I was a social media hog. This is back when Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about get on social media. You need to be on social media. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I just posted everything on social media, and it was just crazy how people would just start reaching out to me and like, hey, I noticed you're real busy. I'm thinking about getting my real estate license. And I'm just like, okay, great. Well, I'd love to talk to you. And it was kind of through that where I never really went out to look for buyers agents to kind of take over buyer leads, because I still would take on the listings. I would still work with the sellers.
Yeah.
But with the buyers agents, it really it was kind of like, all right, for me to go and show 6-7 houses in one day in Auburn, and I'm living in Bellevue, that's going to take up 6 hours of my time, which I could spend towards marketing or prospecting to generate more business, or working on business development. So that's when within my office, there was several agents as well who were just kind of noticing the production. And sometimes like one of the team members, it wasn't even them reaching out to me. I reached out to them. I said, hey, I'm real busy and I can't, manage all these clients at this given time. Would you be interested in partnering with me and working with this buyer? And I was very, selective on who I would partner with. I wouldn't just go and partner with someone who's just a friend, or with someone who's.
So you would like test it out with like, hey, let's try this one lead and then go from there? Or
I wouldn't say it was more of a testing. It was more out of desperation at that time, where it's kind of like, hey, I'm so busy. I'm pulling my hair out.
okay, I need someone.
Can you help me out? Let's split the deal. I'll have my TC write up the paperwork. You do the showings, you do the inspection, and you go to the appraisal. We'll handle the rest. And I'll still maintain contact with both me and you with the buyer. So it was kind of, at that time, there was no real system or process for hiring. It was just kind of like out of desperation. I'm super busy. I need support, and who could help me out?
But you did something though that's important, which is, because this is another idea I've heard before, is don't hire a listing agent right away. Like hire buyers agents before listing agents. And it's this idea that in real estate, if it's a store, the houses are all of your inventory on the shelf. They bring people in, open houses lead to buyers. So it's very, buyers do lead to sellers, but it takes 7 years, whereas sellers lead to buyers within like 7 days. So it's decided. So it makes, even if you didn't do it intentionally, that's definitely like a core idea there is hire your seller agents last.
Right, right. And I had some guidance along the way as well. I'm not gonna, hide that. Definitely had mentorship, and I would always, look up to the top producing agents and people in the office. And I was just a hog for information. And what I started learning was that I actually learned this when I enrolled later in my career. I enrolled in the Tom Ferry program, coaching program. I paid for every single course that was pitched to me. I went through every single webinar. I went through all the YouTube videos that are for free. Like what I learned, when you're self-employed, you got to give yourself homework, or or you're screwed, and you're not going to be able to keep up with the competition and what's relevant and what software and what tools are out there. Here's some people that talk about 20 years of experience, but they've been doing the same thing for 20 years. You know what? That's not 20 years of experience. That's 1 year of experience doing the same thing for 20 years. 20 years of experience, if you're constantly optimizing your approach, your software, your tools, your marketing, your customer service, your customer relations, that's experience. So I've seen people with 1-2 years just absolutely outperform people with 20 plus years of experience. So that whole 20 years of experience, don't let that ever discourage you whenever someone brings that up. That's just a great common objection we'd even receive, and we would handle that with just that script. So
well, you mentioned on the call the other day that when you first started making cold calls, you were worried that people were just going to see you as young, and like, who wants an 18-year-old to list their house, right? It just doesn't, like, where's your experience with anything? But after you got in the confidence on the phone calls and you started being able to talk with confidence about the whole process, that started disappearing. And there's a lot of times when actually the sellers prefer that young, hungry, scrappy agent.
It's not even that young, scrappy agent. This is something like you asked me earlier, like stuff I learned in my early career, which I could help team members with now. It's like, look, it doesn't matter whether you're short, whether you're fat, whether you're, but you have an accent. It doesn't matter if your eyes are wide open or if they're a little more slanted. That stuff honestly does not matter. Those are just lies that you are feeding to yourself in your head, which are ultimately going to limit your potential. And the sooner you can overcome that, the sooner you will be able to start seeing tremendous results, not just in business, but in your self-respect, in your confidence, in your approach, in your friends, and as well as in your standards. When you start treating yourself that way and seeing yourself in that light, and understand that no one's perfect and everyone has something, but end of the day, it's what information are you able to provide and how are you able to help someone? That's all that really people want. I've told you in the beginning, I've seen immigrants with barely any English doing some incredible things in their life and in their businesses with thick accents, and now just even industry leaders within our marketplace. I know some might even be on this call right now.
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned in the comments that that you and someone named Eddie used to go to farmers markets with a translator to get leads. So yeah, there's a lot of
that was a farmers market in Sacramento early in the game, and there was a lot of Hispanic community that went there, and we were just so hungry. We'd set up rent a spot, set up a tent, print out flyers and some banners, and we would sit Saturdays and Sundays talking about real estate, and we'd have translators there. We'd print out flyers, and we'd have my dad translate it for us in Russian and Ukrainian, and then it might have been a little bit kind of gray area, but we'd find all the Russian and Ukrainian churches in Sacramento, and during church, we'd find out there are times we would go put postcards on their windows, so that when they come out of church and they see these postcards with my brother and I on there. So it was,
Right on.
but it was one of those things where, like, once again, I didn't have rich family, I didn't have rich spouse, I didn't have a college degree. It was sink or swim, and at that time, I wasn't looking at what other people were really even doing. It was we do what we got to do.
Yeah, yeah. So let's transition into like the day-to-day operations of the team. You bring leads, you bring mentorship, accountability sounds like a big one too. Where do the leads come from? So as an agent on your team, like what can they expect from you, and what do you feel like you need to do for them?
That's a great question. Whether you're looking to build a team or you're a member on a team, I think one of the first things to kind of discuss would be that a good team, they're not there just for leads. Like with our team, for example, what I work on with them is before they even, like, we break our business down in two sides. You can be a part of the business, but then we have a production team. Production team, they're the ones getting leads. Then there are agents who maybe just joined the team. And if they just joined the team, I don't know, maybe they don't have so much experience, or maybe they've been doing things the wrong way. I'm not just gonna hand them over $100, $200 leads or referrals or past clients of mine. I personally haven't sold a house in over 3 years now. I might have been on as a co-listing agent, things of that sort, but I passed on all of my business. I gave that up. But what I help my team really build is pillars. And the team leads, they're a cherry on top. So my value to the team is the services provided, the support, mentorship, the blueprint to success, and at the same time working on their pillars. So pillars, what I mean by pillars is, say, for example, if someone is just working their sphere and you have their entire business on one pillar, if their sphere dries out, their entire business gets really, really shaky. So we focus on is building at least 4 pillars within the first year. 4 pillars, one could be open houses and generating leads through open houses. It could be through sphere. It could be through cold calling. It could be through social media presence and activity. It could be through building agent referral solution nationwide, and identifying and creating relationships with agents from different states as well as different cities where we have a lot of people moving to and moving from, and developing those pillars, and then really creating a blueprint and a follow-up plan and a nurture plan for each one of those pillars, and
for each one of those agents too, like
for each one of those
you're
agents,
basically helping these agents figure out their plan, and then you hold them accountable to it.
Not really. That's one thing where I think a lot of team leads make a mistake with, is they feel the need to hold people accountable or to micromanage people. I hate micromanaging people. I do not micromanage people. My approach is, even when it comes down to the onboarding, is looking for accountable people. I look for accountable people that I don't have to check up on. They check up with me. With shifting my,
do you guys have like a weekly meeting or something though? I mean, I imagine that
absolutely
accountability is a good thing for everyone too, right?
Yeah, we have every Monday we have a team meeting at 10 a.m. and that's where my ultimate focus is, to bring mass value, new software, new tools, new marketing, ways to leverage our CRM, ways to leverage our database. And it's helped me grow a lot just by having to prepare for these Monday meetings. and making sure that I can come in with value for the team.
Mm.
Then we have also our accountability meetings where we meet with the listing. So let me kind of break down how our team is broken down. So currently there's a total of 8 members on City Home team. We have operations manager. She's also handling, and she's also a partner. I brought her on as a partner to the team as well. Her name is Oya. Oya's on the call right now. Thank you for being on the call, Oya. She's been working with me for quite a while now. We have 2 listing agents. They've been with the team for quite a long time, and they've proven to be very reliable and accountable. They started off very entry level as buyer's agents, working their way up. Alongside with them being listing agents, they're also operating in the capacity of pod leaders. So within what I'm helping them do as well is build up their pods, meaning their own teams within City Home Team, where they do their own recruiting, they're doing their own kind of onboarding, using a lot of the tools, systems, processes I have in place to do that. So it's kind of the growth path that we have for every single agent. You can start off as a licensed assistant, transition to buyer's agent, and then move to listing. To the listing side and higher price points. Like we never really go back and discuss, okay, how are we going to adjust the team commission splits? We focus on how can we make more money, right? And just shifting focus from average purchase price of 300,000 to let's focus on $600,000 price points. We've doubled their commission without cutting into what the team as well as what the partners split is. Right. So we focus on things, maybe adding another pillar, maybe adding additional marketing, because team costs are real. Like my Oya now partner, she sees my P&L and she's also realizing like, okay, well, wow, there's a lot of expenses here affiliated with carrying support members, with software, with marketing, with desk fees. We pay for Pelago, office fees. We get co-work
You
space
mentioned
at WeWork.
$200-300 leads a moment ago too.
Yeah.
So you're paying for leads also for your team.
Yeah, sometimes they cost even more. But those are only going to the more experienced agents and the ones that have proven to that they could close deals, and not just close deals, but nurture deals as well. When we do lead distribution, we kind of go in a tier schedule. We look at the CRM based on the CRM rating. We look at, okay, does this lead have is their database updated? Meaning if I've assigned them 10 leads in the past, but they've only called them half of them and the other half they haven't called yet, or then they haven't called the other 5 to follow up, and they just make one phone call, like you're not getting any more leads. That's just not how this business works. And if that's what you are expecting out of this business, you're in the wrong business, because there's there's nurturing that's involved, and there's a little bit of chasing, and a little bit of pride that needs to be set aside, and a lot of just consistency.
Yeah.
Then we have 2 buyers agents. We have 1 assistant who's also operating, licensed assistant. They handle showings. They handle sending out MLS listings
For the whole
buyers
team,
agents.
like is this licensed assistant, they're doing showings for your other agents too?
Yeah. They're doing showings, they're sitting open houses, or sorry, they're sitting home inspections, going to appraisals if necessary. We'll unlock a door for a buyer if they want to do final walkthrough. They'll even deliver closing gifts on some occasions. So we leverage them to that capacity. They also send out I'm watching the time here. They're also sending out listings daily. So just those tasks alone free up so much time. Average transaction for a buyer transaction will take 72 hours. For our sales members, it takes approximately 12 hours with the amount
What do
of
you mean?
leverage and support that I provide for them.
Oh, like
Provided
total
for them.
investment time that you put in between like meeting the client and closing?
Yeah, so for a solo agent, it would take about 72 hours from the time they meet a client, showings, transaction work up until closing. For our team members, it takes about 12 hours.
Hmm. Yeah, and so that they're saving
Okay.
quite a lot there.
On a listing side, it takes about it's a lot shorter. It's about 36 hours average on the listing side. For listing agents, on average, it takes about 4 hours.
Hmm.
Leading up to our listing coordinator. We have a listing coordinator on the team. They started off with a 5% listing coordination fee. We just broke it down just recently into level 1, or like a tier 1 and a tier 2 listing coordination services they provide, one being 5% of the listing total listing commission, the second level being 10% of the listing commission. So as a team, if we're doing, say for example, 5 listings in a month, and we have it spread out amongst the team members, and each team member has 1 listing, the listing coordinator has an opportunity to actually make just as much money as a listing agent just by handling the listing coordination of 4 or 5 listings within the team for that month. And we kind of find a place for everyone. Our existing listing coordinator started off, she's also an operations manager. She's incredible, wears so many hats. But started off, kind of young, ambitious, came from a nanny job, and she's like, I want to get my real estate license. Everyone in my family's in real estate sales or investing and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, let's do it. We tried real estate sales and just kind of found it wasn't the right fit, but she showed up to every script practice, showed up to every single meeting, handled all of her responsibilities. It was just the sales, it just wasn't quite clicking. So we transitioned, we shifted kind of a job role within the team and the responsibility, and she's absolutely thriving in this role and in this position right now. So that's another thing where it goes down to finding accountable people. Is if someone's accountable and responsible, you want to hold on to them and find a place for them within your organization. Maybe might not be on the administrative or support side, or might be on the not so much on the sales side. We've also had people who started on the administrative support side, but they're ambitious of, hey, I want to sell houses. I want to get into sales. All right, we're not going to try to cap you. I'm not going to try to say, no, you have to work and stay in this administrative support role in this position, because it's going to happen. They're going to leave. They're going to leave, whether if they don't feel like they have an opportunity to explore different areas within this industry, within this organization, they're going to leave. Or if they start feeling like their vision, or if their goals or objective in life is much greater than what this organization is able to provide for them, they're going to leave as well. So my goal is to always continue growing the vision of the company, growing the opportunities, and ultimately retaining team members and partners, and making sure they know they're appreciated as well as compensated well.
Yeah. Well, we got more questions and things to talk about, but I wanted to throw it out there for the audience. If anybody has any questions, just throw them in the chat, or you might even be able to unmute yourself and ask them. But if you have any questions for Paul, let us know. So if you, I guess what else do you think people in the audience should know? Tips?
Well, I mean, I guess the first thing is like a question. I mean, I'm not so much familiar with. I understand like the team members here within my team who are here, and I'm not sure if some people are looking to join a team or some people are looking to grow a team. Part of whether, regardless of which direction you're looking to go into, something that I do for, I guess I can kind of show you, this is what our team looks like. I provide website for them. They all have their ability for to have their own website within the team as well. This is City Home Team. Here we have our Pelago logo. It's linked to our CRM. I provide CRM services where we could do text messaging, emailing from. I just provide this for them. And then if they put in like their first name up front, so alexi.cityhometeam.com, this website's going to be linked to him. So he could share this link, and whenever someone goes to look at his website, it's always going to have his information on there, and it's going to allow people to, whenever someone inquires on a property or a featured listing of ours or within our company, you might notice yours here as well. A lot of these are Repeligo, some are by within the areas that we work in. It creates a great value add for our team members. My objective and role right now for the team is support. That's really what my role is right now, is supporting them and their business, as well as making sure their business is thriving. When someone ever approaches us and wants to join the team, I used to be a lot more aggressive with team building. And, now it's just kind of referral based, as well as someone hears about us and they kind of just get on my nerves and just keep on reaching out. Then I'm like, all right, let's talk. But I used to be a lot more aggressive with my onboarding process, and I'd use Indeed, I'd use Craigslist. I'd also do email blasts and
like to find agents to partner with.
Agents. Yeah, exactly. To find agents to partner with. Now, what we would do prior to bringing them on board, we'd have what's called a 30, 60, 90 before they get a position on the team. They first have to show that they're accountable. So within the first 30 days, they are going through and I give them a blueprint. These are income producing activities, as well as ways, kind of foundation for them to really start and work in their business on. Kind of start like with a minimum of 20 people within their sphere. Give them directions on name, address, phone, email, address, and their birth date, because we use all this data to do our nurture plans. Another pillar we do is the core. We call it the core 100, but we start with the core 20. This is service providers and vendors, people that work with a client base. And we have them develop those as well, because we create a referral partnership with, for example, someone that is a lender, and we say, hey, we'll send you all of our business, but you should send us all of yours. It's only fair, right? So we kind of develop those exclusive type relationships with our window guy, with our inspector, with our title companies, with whoever we send a lot of referrals to. We develop those exclusive relationships. It could be a hairstylist, it could be a car mechanic, it could be a tow truck driver, right? Whoever works with customers, we develop that core relationship, we call it. Within the first 30 days, they're doing 10 home tours and they're providing feedback. The objective is for us to be able to see what are they identifying within each home tour, and is it information that's relevant. Like, some people on their feedback forms, they put in the cute house, right? But on the feedback where you put stuff like exterior street noise level, 7 out of 10, interior road noise level, 3 out of 10, roof seems to be in good condition, no signs of defects, window stuff that is actually valuable and like critical for a buyer to know and understand, because end of the day, the buyers and sellers, they don't know everything. They need you to know everything. So we kind of help the team members kind of shift their focus on what's really critical and important for them to look out when they're touring a home within their first 30 days.
And so this is kind of like an agent. As an agent, you want to make sure that your new agent partners, they've gone through at least 10 of these, so that after that, like they get how this all works at that point.
We both know, and their confidence level surges through the roof. Mm-hmm. They understand. We kind of meet, and we meet during accountability meetings, kind of go over, all right, well, on your next tours, let's focus on this. And they actually fill out the form so I could see what they complete, and whether me or the pod leaders within the team, they'll go over those feedback forms. Then what we're doing is recommending agents to City Home Team, right? This is how we help build the team, as well as grow their downlines, their sales agents. So they recommend 3 agents or potential agents to the team. It's worked really well for bringing on new talent to the team.
And do you still do this part? I think you mentioned that you're not super gung-ho about expanding the team too proactively anymore. Is that,
Yeah, I'm not, I still encourage them to do this just because it helps them. It's another pillar, it's another pillar, and just even having their mind set on kind of build growth, it helps the team, it helps them, and um, we still implement this. Yes, I mean it's um, everyone has some friends or family members who's inspired by their
okay, so there's
career
non-existing
change.
agents. Gotcha. Like people who could become agents.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be non-existing agents. It could be existing, but I haven't brought so many new ones on, so we haven't been completing too many of these 30, 60, 90s. What we're doing is they have to visit one home inspection where they meet our home inspector. They put down the date they completed. It's not just like, oh yeah, I visited a home inspection. No, which date did you complete it? I'm not going to go in and check and micromanage on it, but end of the day, it's like, hey, this is for your own good. If you want to cheat your way out of it, the results will show in the long term. We're doing 5 home tours, shadows with a buyer's agent, and they're completing feedback forms. So they're going with an existing experienced buyer's agent on the team, and they're taking some notes on the home tour. They're doing 12 hours of script practice. They're inputting the date which they attended or when they had those script practices.
How does that work? Is that like a team thing where every morning you guys do scripts, or?
Team or individual? Team or individual. Not the entire team is in sales, so a lot of times their team meeting is kind of more general. But for a sales team, they'll have breakout sessions a couple times a week where they kind of do it on their own recognizance.
Like with another person on the team, or?
Yeah,
Like,
with another
yeah.
person on the team, with another person on the team, or collectively with a group on a team. Then we're doing within the first 30 days CRM training, where they're learning how to set up accounts, the best practices. We use Brivity CRM, Brivity. We're having them go on 3 buyer consultations. Practice ones are okay. So meaning they could sit down with me or a pod leader and they could kind of practice a buyer consultation. They have a buyer presentation, which we provide for them, as well as a listing presentation, and they practice that. They practice it before they sit down and meet with us, and they practice it 3 times. That way, when they actually meet with a buyer, they're prepared. You got Sunday football games. They practice all week and they play one day on Sunday. If you don't come to practice all week, you're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say you're a tyrant. You're ruling with a heavy fist.
Well,
And
is
it's
there
like,
some like structure around the practicing? Like you pair them up, or how do you, I guess, how do you hold them accountable? Like I was on a team and it was like every day at 8:30 was scripts for the sales team for 30 minutes. You'd find somebody else in the room and then you would just do the script. How do you guys handle that?
I, to be honest, like how I used to do it when it was more like, all right, every morning, if you want to get leads this day, you got to come to script practice at 9 a.m. And if you don't come to script practice, you don't play that day, right? That's how it used to be. Now it's like,
Well, now you have other carrots, right? You
now
have
it's
other
like, hey, I'm not
incentives.
gonna micromanage. I'm not gonna track when you do it. Just get them done. This is for your own good. I'm not doing this. Like, I honestly don't have to work anymore. I don't have to sell real estate anymore. I'm at this point in my life. I'm doing this because I like it. I love the team I work with. I love to see people grow. I love to give what I know. And ultimately this is blueprint for your success. And I want to help you. If you don't want to do this, if you don't want to play this way, don't play this way. Just don't waste my time. These are our standards. This is the level that our team plays. We practice. We work hard. We're going for the championship ring. If you don't want to play this way, don't play this way. Just don't waste my time. Don't waste other team members' time. There are plenty of solutions and opportunities available there for you. And it's how we play this game.
So they figure out when they're going to do these practices, and they'll get those
They
dates.
figure out. I mean, look, they have 30 days to do it.
Right. Form's not complete until it's complete.
They have 30 days. And I mean, what a couple of things just to run through it, like doing a listing appointment, they have to visit 10 open houses. You got to know what your competitors are doing. If you're going out and you're hosting open houses, you got to know what your competitors are doing within your area and your range, right? So they're looking at their content, they're looking at their script, they're kind of almost playing as like a secret shopper. Then they're hosting their own 10 open houses in the first 30 days. Now, I don't care if it's 2 hours an open house or if it's you're doing them every weekend or what. We're doing 250 calls in the first 30 days.
I like how you wrote each one out. So they have to like cross out each one of those. Got the paper clips in there still.
Yeah, that's the paper that hey, it worked for me. It's gonna work for them. It's 250 calls in a month versus 150 calls a day. That's nothing.
It goes fast.
Then we have, fully understand the PSA. So this is like the most important critical stuff we want them to get up to speed on. We give them 30 days to do it. We've had agents do this within 2 weeks. This really determines who's accountable or not. This is our accountability kind of test and who we decide to work with and who we don't. We just don't bring on anyone just because they're, I just got my license, I'm so ambitious. Okay, cool. Well, let's see how ambitious you are. Because as more experienced you become, the more valuable your time becomes. And the worst thing is training someone and working with someone who just is slacking and sleeping in and lazy, right? Have some reading content, but ultimately here at the end, it says, this is expectations. It's not my expectations. It's that what the partnership expectations they should have for themselves after the first 30 days, if they should have, towards one pending, 4 active buyers, 2 potential listings. And what we're doing is we're bringing onto the team to 30 days at a time. They're not getting a year-long team agreement where I commit to providing the services that I provide as a team lead for a year. It's only for 30 days at a time. You go through the first 30 days, we have a 60-day, then we have a 90-day. You go through the 90 days, then you get a position on the team. This really helps filter out the time wasters versus the accountable, responsible people within the first 30, 60, 90 days.
What we're doing is this challenge. Like I already, just reading this, like, oh, I bet you I could do these 30 days, like I don't want to, like, it's like there's all these extra hurdles I got to get through,
That's what everyone says, but we don't give participation awards over here. You either complete it or you don't. You don't get past the first 30 days. There's no, I understand if someone had like some major emergency, you get a star, you move on to the next 30, but everyone signs it. So the question you asked me is like, do you ever let agents go? They usually leave themselves because of the standards that we set for the team and our responsibilities. It's kind of like, hey, look, they usually fall out because they don't realize. And what this accountability thing does is like, look, if someone within the first 30 days comes up to me and says, like on their first week, they're like, Paul, I don't know how to do 10 open houses. That seems like so much. I'll sit down with them and I'll go over and create a plan with them on how to get 10 open houses done in 30 days. But if they're coming to me on day 29 and they're saying, Paul, I've only done 2 open houses. I have 1 day left and I need to do 8 more open houses. I bluntly tell them, hey, this is your problem, not mine. You had 30 days to come and talk to me about this, and you're choosing to come and talk to me about it. Now you clearly don't appreciate or value this opportunity that we're providing and presenting for you, and figure it out. You got 1 day to figure it out. If not, I'm sorry. We're starting off on the wrong foot already. So I know it's kind of blunt and it's kind of that, but my time is gold and my time is very precious. I'm not going to waste it for someone who doesn't appreciate that, respect that, or doesn't appreciate or respect their own time either.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love that part. Let's just see if there's any questions.
Sure.
No questions. Okay. Well, we'll kind of wrap it up then, since we're at 11. That way, no one's worried if they're going to be missing something on it. I'll give it another minute to throw out if you have any questions. If you are interested in, you're looking for a team to join and some more guidance, you can reach Paul at cityhometeam.com. So their team is his first name at City Home Team, and If you're thinking about starting a team and you have questions about logistics and stuff, feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, thanks for everyone's time.
Awesome. Thank you, Gideon, for putting this on. Appreciate all my friends and team members that had an opportunity to get on and dedicated so much time for this. Really appreciate the team, really appreciate my friends and colleagues that are on here. And if I haven't met you yet, I'd love to meet you. I'm in the Pelago group on Facebook. And if there's any resources, tools, if you have questions on what CRMs we use, marketing strategies, the way we structure the team, please feel free to reach out. Or if your business is kind of struggling, love to be able to help work on some pillars for you as well and put some systems in place. And I'm looking for a partnership. And if you're open to partnering, and if I could help you make $1 million and you don't care if I make $1 million, then we're a good fit. But if I help you make $1 million and you're counting $1 million that I made, we're probably not a good fit.
Yeah, right on. I love that. All right, everybody. Have a great day. And thanks again, Paul.
All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody.